Hello people, my multimedia presentation and transcript project instruction topic discussion on week 5 professional opportunities based on the Reading and Study Grant Agency website, Charles Coates Foundation Grant, John Templeton Foundation Grant, and Bradley Center grants. I'm going to explain on how these grants relate to public history and how people who are interested in public history can apply to these grants. Website 1, the Charles Foundation grants. The Child Foundation provide grants that's supposed to enable thousands of individuals. The organization is supposed to also provide grants and stipends to enable individuals to gain valuable experience for the college industry incorporated. The grants that Charles Z. Coach are funded are many. These grants include criminal justice reform, toleration and free speech, foreign policy, K-1 education research grant, technology innovation, entrepreneurship research, and educational grants. Criminal justice reform requests for people who are interested in criminal justice reform. The focus of research in this grant includes studies the scope and impact of overcriminalization, exploring early contact with the criminal justice system, exploring varied alternatives to the current plea bargain system. The toleration and free speech research grants requires proposal for research programming support or educational activities. The main interest in this grant explores implements to free speech and open inquiry in the academy. Legal interpretation of the First Amendment and the consequences explore the individual structural drives of intolerance and tribalism in society. Foreign policy grant applies to scholars and institutions challenging the approach of U.S. policy. Foreign policy. This grant looks for people who is mainly interested in political science, history, international relations, and economics. The foreign policy base explore topics and issues related to a grand strategy of restraint, examine the role of values and ethics in the formation of U.S. foreign policy. It studies the costs and benefits of burden sharing and burden shifting with current allies. The K-112 educational grant apply on research on education delivery system and transformative schooling options. This grant applies to scholars and policy experts to apply who are interested in K-1 education. The K-1 education grant examines student-based funding, school finance reform, spending transparency, and the organization. Also have graduate students grants that include academic fellowship and graduate research support. These grants are especially useful on people who are applying in one of these fields. The main general proposal support individuals seeking innovative solutions. The website explains that the best way for a person to find out their project request is to submit an online grant proposal. According to the grant description, it provides borrowing association with tools necessary to solve community problems using a combination of local knowledge and evidence-driven strategies. It also shed light on the structure, intellectual, political development of voluntary association in American communities. Grants that does relate to public history since the proposal of the grant help build stronger communities. Another grant that relates to public history is technology and innovation research grants. Explores the culture and political policy conditions necessary for the breaking throughs in knowledge, especially in the historical and comparative case studies. The grant schedule include 1 or 2 page extract, resume, brief, itemized budget, and final project should be original. Over the community grants and technology grant are useful grants are people who are applying for public history opportunity. The communities grant gave people the opportunity to work in communities that are facing the biggest challenge regarding to historical, social, and political. Since many political history work focus on history outside the classroom, this grant can be very useful for people who are looking to get into historical preservation. Historical preservation is another good field for people who want to work in communities. Basically, this grant right here, I think is a really good grant, especially among the communities, since it focuses more on working outside the classroom and more in public. Basically, you can look at how I can say more related to public history. It's basically that look at historical preservation. Most people who get into historical preservation usually work in communities like neighborhoods. They work in buildings, parks. Maybe old settlements. Anything you can say pretty much that have historical meaning. It could be a grave site. It could be etc., etc. Now I remember going to Andrew Jackson, the museum. Like I live in Nashville. Is I went to the Hermitage. That's what we call it, the Hermitage. And I remember when I took a trip with it. It's like a year ago, and I it was like when we go to Andrew Jackson. Of course, you go to see some of his outfits and stuff. Then you go to the house he was living. If you walk a little bit down, it's like where his slaves was at, and there's a house that was burnt. I forgot what it was called. That historical meaning, and there were log cabins and other stuff there too as well. And I was just kind of impressed. Also, that's another community. That technology, of course, you know, if you look at digital archives, films, or interviews, is a major important factor in public history. Now, you know, nowadays with technology, you can go to websites and like JSTOR or universities like Vanderbilt, you can find many different aspects of historical secondary and primary sources, especially primary sources as well that we do in this classroom. And we've got a primary source project. So yeah, communities and technology. I think the grants for this website, Charles Coast Foundation, are really people grants that relates to public history that people can apply for funding for it. So I think it's a really good grants that can really closely relate to public history. I would say. Um, Second website too, the John Temptation Foundation grants. Basically, the John Temptation Foundation provides many grants that people can apply for. They have many fun areas, including science and the big question, character, verde, development, individual freedom, and free markets, exponential, cognitive talent, and genius, genetics, and voluntary family planning. The foundation is named after Sir John Templeton, who was a pioneer in both financial investment and philanthropy. The grants that the John Temptation Foundation are providing are many in the fields of character, verde, development, natural scientists, public engagement, human scientists, philosophy and theology, character, verde, development. The grant that's closely related to the public history must be the natural scientist grants. The natural scientist grants has many grants in relation to public history. One titled Consequence of Creativity in the Neolithic of Katayuk, Turkey, where many anthropologists have been doing research at this area for the last couple of years. Just examine how grants relates to public history. Basically, on the website, there are other stuff like human sciences, public development, but really, I think the natural sciences one that really can relate to public history, even though the natural sciences focus most on the environmental way of more science, but if you look at history, most areas, like it was saying about anthropologists exploring Turkey, you can see other historical areas, places in ancient Egypt, or I'll call it Kemet, that's what I call it, or look at Greece, Rome, a lot of areas, you know, the environmental place. You can look at deserts. You can look at sort of historical areas like the Grand Canyon. You can look at I say Death Valley. You can look at even islands like Jamaica and many places have a lot of historical even factors in land too as well, where people live, groups of people live throughout history. So I think natural science do have ties to public history because it's more natural science, environmental, you know, forests, trees, and, you know where people live. So I would basically say, yeah, natural science is a grant that people can apply for that website. The last one, the Bradley Center grants. The last website that offer grants is the Bradley Center grants. The Walter Bradley Center for Natural and Artificial Intelligence main program focuses on 4 areas, includes communication, research, education, and application. It's named after Walter Bradley, who was distinguished engineer and materials scientist. The grants that include academic research grants and entrepreneurship grants. Both have instruction on how to apply, including a cover page, abstract, and literature review. The grant that closely relates to public history is the academic research grant, since the Bradley Center proposed of the grants that it provides funds, manual grants, white paper, and technical papers as their many grants. The way people can apply for this grant is follow the application. The application consists of a cover page, abstract, brief biography, significant literature review, research plan, and product, outside research, collaboration, budget, and length. So I see the academic research is the one that can closely relate to people applying for public history, since they have papers, grants, and pretty much archives. Now, monographs are really important things in public history people can use as well. So I think that's the one that can closely relate to public history. Overall, the Charles Coast Foundation, John Templeton, and the Bradley Center grants all have grants in relation to public history. The communication, technology, innovation, and research grants are good grants that relate to the field of public history. In the field of public history is where people work outside the classroom. Many people work in communities that has a historical significance, include buildings, parks, neighborhoods. Technology can also have a big role in public history as well, as we see how public history is conducting in oral interviews, television, documentary, digital archives. The Temptation Foundation grant in relation to natural scientists is the best grant in relation to public history since it deals with the environment. The academic research grant is for Ward Bradley Center for Natural and Artificial Intelligence, is where somebody can use it to find digital archives and monographs. All the websites are good grants for the field of public history. Mentioning that, it reminded me a lot about this one show that I watched on PBS called Finding Your Roots, hosted by we own Harvard scholar Henry Louis Gates, where he interviews celebrities and we do a lot of oral uh, genealogy, historical research on their families or things that they didn't really know about. And that's an example of public history because he interviews well and find a lot of good information. If you can look at oral interviews, like I mentioned before, it's example of public history and looking at archives and primary sources. Even in this class, public history, our project, my topic for the primary source project is on the natural settings, and I have found a lot of interviews on people who participate in the natural settings. And this year makes it by the way, the 60th anniversary. People like John Lewis, Diane Nash, and them, and it's really fascinating and stuff. So, that's things about public history. But overall, though, this video, I want to talk about these three websites. The Charles Coach Foundation website, John Templeton Foundation grants, and the Bradley Center grants, and how these grants can apply for people that want to apply for public history. It's been a very interesting discussion, and I appreciate the time for y'all listening to me and stuff. And best of luck, and y'all have a good day.